break the bad news. It ain't Bernie. It is all of us together. Let me thank Dickie for their music. Let me thank the great supervisor from Lynn County, Stacy Walker, for all of his great work. Let me thank the owner Longford for her remarks. Jeff Kurtz for the great work he's doing in the legislature and for his support. Nick Salazar is doing a great job for us. Barb Kalber for all of her good work. Chris Schwartz. Let me thank Senator Nina Turner. Senator Turner has been doing some of the most important work that anybody can do. It's something all of us have got to do. She's been all over this country, bringing people, young people, working people, people of color, into the political process, getting them to stand up and fight for justice. Senator Turner, thank you. And let me thank Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal, not only for her support, not only for being here this evening, but for all of the great leadership that she is showing in the United States Congress. Pramila, thank you. Before she was a member of Congress, Pramila was an immigration lawyer. She was an anti-war activist, and as a member of the Congress, she has introduced our companion legislation for Medicare for all in the House. Pramila, thank you so much. As all of you know, this mic is falling. The message of our campaign, which is a very profound message, it's called Us, Not Me. And what that message means, and what Senator Turner and Congresswoman Jayapal were talking about, is that if you look at American history, real change never takes place from the top on down, always from the bottom on up. You know, it is never a president who wakes up in the middle of the night and says, oh, I got a great idea, women should have the right to vote. Or I have a brilliant idea, I think it's only right that gay people be able to get married. I think that's a wonderful idea. That is not the way history works. That is not the way change takes place. And now, more than ever, we need a mass movement of working people, black and white and Latino, Asian American, Native American. We need millions of people to stand up, to look around them and to say, you know what? The status quo is not working. We need a government that believes in justice, not greed. And oddly enough, when we talk about us, not me, no one could have predicted it, but as all of you know, tonight I'm going back to D.C., and tomorrow I will be in an impeachment trial. How long it lasts, honestly don't know. So I will not be able to be back here in Iowa as much as I would like. We had originally planned a number of town meetings, rallies all over the state. We're going to do the best we can. We have great surrogates. You've heard some of them. We have volunteers out knocking on doors. And thank you very much, volunteers. You've been knocking on a lot of doors. As a matter of fact, you've knocked on hundreds of thousands of doors. So ironically, the us, not me, is becoming very much of a reality in the last 2 weeks of this campaign, because I'm not going to be able to be here as much as I would like. So you guys are going to have to carry the ball. And that means talking to as many of your friends and family and coworkers as you can, making sure they all come out to caucus 2 weeks from tonight. Second point that I want to make is there is a lot of appropriate discussion about electability. You got people all across the political spectrum who say, we have got to defeat the most dangerous president in the modern history of this country. We agree. We agree. Donald Trump, and no matter what your political views may be, I do understand that not everybody in Iowa agree with everything that we believe. Got it. But I think the overwhelming majority of people in this great state, no matter what your political view may be, do not think it's appropriate that we have somebody in the White House who is a pathological liar. You know, you want to be able to turn on the TV with your kids and not be embarrassed and have to rush and turn off the television because of some absurd remark that the president makes. We can disagree on issues, but we do not want a president who is, gives me no pleasure to tell you, a racist, a sexist, a homophobe, a xenophobe, and a religious bigot. That is not the temperament of somebody we need in the White House. So I happen to believe there are other good candidates out there, and you have heard everybody, I think, say that no matter who wins this Democratic primary process, and needless to say, I kind of hope it is us, but that we will be united in doing everything possible to defeat Donald Trump. So why do I think that we are the best campaign to do that? And let me tell you why. Donald Trump will be a very tough opponent. That's the simple truth. The only way that Trump is going to be defeated is if we have, by far, the largest voter turnout in American history. That's what we need. So I would hope the people of Iowa, the people of America, ask themselves, which campaign is the campaign of energy and excitement? Which is the campaign that is reaching out to working class people, many of whom are disillusioned with the political process and too often do not vote? Young people today, and this is very good news, are the most progressive generation in the history of the United States of America. Historically, however, the simple truth is that young people have not voted at the kind of rate that they should have. Which campaign is capable of bringing in millions of young people into the political process? Which campaign has already won the support, not only of the Sunrise Movement, but of People's Action, of other grassroots organizations who represent millions of people? Our campaign has. Historically in American politics, what politics was about is an establishment candidate sits down with a bunch of wealthy people and they map out a campaign. That's the way it was not so many years ago. We have changed the rules of the game. We are not here to represent the political establishment or the economic establishment of America. We are here to represent the working class of America. And one reason why we are best suited, best prepared to win this election, as you can see in terms of how we raise our campaign funds. You got candidates out there who raise a lot of money from many, many billionaires. Well, we do it differently. We have received over 5 million contributions from over 1.3 million Americans, averaging $18.50. No campaign in American history has done that at this point in an election. So the reason that we are going to beat Trump is we are redefining what politics is about. We don't go to rich people's homes to raise money. We don't go to donors to get support. Our support comes from the working class of this country, and that is something Trump will never be able to defeat. Today we celebrate the birthday of one of the great leaders in American history, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And I will date myself a little bit by telling you that when Dr. King gave his famous speech, I Have a Dream speech, I was actually there. Took a bus from Chicago. And Dr. King and his vision has always been an inspiration to me, one of the motivating political forces in my life. Now, sometimes the media kind of sanitizes what Dr. King was about. But I want all of you to know that he was a man not only of brilliance and a great writer and a great orator, he was a political revolutionary. And during his lifetime, he took on not only the racists in Alabama and Mississippi, you all know that, and went to jail and was beaten and all that, but he took on the economic establishment. He took on the military-industrial complex at great personal sacrifice. He said, you know what, the three major evils in American society are racism, are poverty, and militarism. And with great courage, he stood up and opposed the war in Vietnam. And he said at that time, a lesson which is relevant today: why are we spending huge amounts of money fighting wars when people in America are sleeping out on the streets? So in the spirit of Dr. King, what this campaign is about, what makes us different than other campaigns, is that we are not here just to defeat Donald Trump. And of course, that is our first goal. But we are here to transform the United States of America and create an economy and a government that works for all of us, not just the 1%. And that is what the political revolution is. It says that we need millions of people to step up to the plate to stand up and fight for justice. Now, what is our program about? What does it mean? It means, for a start, in America, the wealthiest country in the history of the world, we are going to end the grotesque level of income and wealth inequality that exists today. We will not accept 3 people owning more wealth than the bottom half of American society. We will not accept the top 1% owning more wealth than the bottom 92%. I have been all over this great state, and I have talked to workers here in Iowa. I remember a woman right here in Des Moines. She raising 3 kids, making $10.25 an hour, working at a fast food place. Well, you know what? You can't raise a family on $10.25 an hour. So what we believe is, in America, if you work 40 hours a week, you should not be living in poverty. It's not a radical idea. And that means that we're going to raise the federal minimum wage to at least $15 an hour. It means that we're going to do away with the absurdity of women making 79 cents on the dollar compared to men. Women deserve the whole damn dollar. It means that we're going to make it easier for workers to join unions and engage in a collective bargaining. It means that we're going to rebuild our crumbling infrastructure, our roads and our bridges and our water systems and our wastewater plants, and we're going to build 10 million units of affordable housing. And when we do that, when we rebuild our infrastructure, we're going to put millions of workers into jobs that will pay them good union wages. And when we talk about creating a government of the working class, for the working class, by the working class, it means that we're going to fundamentally change the way we do education in America. We are going to have high quality, affordable, universal child care in America. Okay, there we go. Thank you. And when we talk about education, I want to just say this, because what our campaign urges people to do is to think outside of the box. Look at the world we exist in a different way than Congress does or that the media does. And ask yourself, in terms of education, everybody here knows, there is no debate, that to make it into the middle class today, by and large, some exceptions, you need a higher education. Is that right? Yes. Now, 100 years ago, people fought for public education, but that was K-12. It seems kind of commonsensical that with a changing world economy, changing technology, that when we talk about education, that must mean it's free tuition in public colleges and universities throughout this country. Does anybody think that's a radical? education, we are also talking about the absurdity of millions of people in this country being in financial distress because they went to college.
Yeah.
Now, if we could bail out the crooks on Wall Street, if we could give $1 trillion in tax breaks to the top 1% and large corporations, do you know what a government that represents working people can do? We can cancel all student debt in America. And we do that with a modest tax on Wall Street speculation. When we talk about education and changing our values as Americans, it means that we must respect those people who educate our young people. We must make sure that the best and the brightest in this country want to go into education and say with pride, man, I am so excited, I am going to become a teacher and influence the lives of thousands of young people. And to do that, not to make sure that all teachers in America earn at least $60,000 a year. Now, there is an issue that I have been talking about my entire adult life. And that issue is a profound belief that health care is a human right, not a privilege. And now, in America, we are spending twice as much per person on health care as do the people of any other country. Spending twice as much. And here's what you are getting for spending $11,000 for every man, woman, and child. We are ending up with 87 million Americans who are uninsured or underinsured. That ain't right. We are ending up with 30,000 people dying each. 30,000 people dying each year because they don't get to a doctor when they should. And I want you to hear this as well. In our system today, despite spending twice as much per capita as the people of any other country, 500,000 people go bankrupt as a result of medically related debt. I want you to think about it. People come down with cancer. They're struggling for their lives through no fault of their own. They're dealing with cancer, they're dealing with heart disease, they're dealing with Alzheimer's, whatever terrible illness they may be. It is unthinkable that in the wealthiest country in the history of the world, hundreds of thousands of people suffer severe financial distress simply because they are struggling with some terrible illness. That is not acceptable, and together we are going to end that absurdity. Now here is the simple truth. Some of you are saying, how is it that we are the only major country on earth not to guarantee health care to all people? How is it that we spend twice as much per capita on health care as do the people of any other country? How is it that we pay by far the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs? How does it happen? And the answer is not complicated. The answer is that the healthcare industry, the drug companies, and the insurance companies will do everything they can to prevent us from moving to health care as a human right. And tonight I got news for the greed and corruption of the healthcare industry. For over 100 years, from Teddy Roosevelt to Barack Obama, presidents have been talking about the need to guarantee health care to all people. Within the first week of our administration, we will introduce and we will finally pass a Medicare for all single-payer system. And what that means is no more premiums, no more co-payments, no more deductibles, no more out-of-pocket expenses, no more than $200 a year for prescription drugs. And we're going to expand Medicare to include dental care, hearing aids, eyeglasses, and home health care. And because we end the corruption in the pharmaceutical industry, where in some cases we pay 10 times more for the same medicine sold in Canada, because we end the profiteering of the healthcare industry that made $100 billion in profits last year, because we end the administrative nightmare of a system in which thousands of different private health insurance plans exist, because we will have a simple system that provides comprehensive care to every man, woman, and child, we can make certain that the working people of this country will pay substantially less for health care than they are today. And I got to tell you something just happened today which is really monumental in this whole struggle. Pramila, who, as I mentioned earlier, introduced the legislation in the House. I've introduced the Senate. You know, we've got a bunch of people running around the country talking about the need for Medicare for all. Well, today I am happy to tell you that the American College of Physicians, representing 159 doctors, has come out for Medicare for all. And they understand, and the nurses, we have the support, as many of you know, of the National Nurses United. That's the largest nurses union in America. And what the nurses understand and what the doctors understand is they cannot do their jobs under the current system. Doctors are sick and tired of fighting with the insurance industry about what kind of medicine, what kind of therapy they can prescribe to their patients. They are sick and tired of seeing people walk into their office much sicker than they should be because they didn't have any health insurance and couldn't afford to go to the doctor. So what the doctors are saying and what the nurses are saying, let us practice the medicine we were trained to do. Healthcare is a human right for every man, woman, and child. Go to the doctor when you need to, regardless of your income. Donald Trump embarrasses us every day. It's hard to keep track of what his latest tweet was. Probably about me, but anyway. But one area where his absurd policies impact not only us as Americans, but the entire world, is his ignorance in terms of the crisis of climate change. So let me lay it on the line here. What I'm going to tell you, I wish it's kind of frightening stuff. And what it's about is that the scientists who have for a long time told us that healthcare, that climate change is real, that it is caused by human activity, that it's already doing a lot of damage, this is what they're now saying. What the scientists are now saying is, hey, sorry, we underestimated the degree and the severity and the speed in which climate change is ravaging this country and our planet. Polar ice caps are melting at a faster rate than they had anticipated. The ocean is warming at a faster rate than they had anticipated. The Earth is warming at a faster rate than they had thought, which means that by the end of the century, this planet may be 7, 8 degrees Fahrenheit warmer than it is. And what that means, if we do not address this existential crisis, is that cities in America like Miami, New Orleans, Charleston, New York City, and many others will be partially or maybe substantially underwater by the end of the century. It means that countries like Vietnam and Bangladesh and large parts of China will be significantly underwater. It means that we will see increased droughts, which means that farmers here in Iowa will have a shorter, less productive growing season. They will be producing less, and the quality of the food they produce will deteriorate. And when you have more drought, you're going to have more wildfires. All of you are aware of the horror now taking place in Australia, where that continent is burning, and what happened in California with unprecedented levels of forest fires. If we don't get a handle on this, that is the future of this world. And when we talk about the acidification and warming of the ocean, we're talking about fish dying off, but tens of millions of people get their protein from fish. When we talk about extreme weather disturbances, just a few months ago, Venice, Italy, one of the most beautiful cities in the world, underwater. Houston, Texas, underwater. That will happen more and more frequently at a huge expense of taxpayer dollars having to rebuild what has been destroyed. When you're talking about climate change, you're talking about bacteria thriving in warm weather, disease spreading. When you're talking about climate change, the United Nations tells us that hundreds of millions of people may become climate refugees, forced to leave their homes because there's no water to drink or land to grow their crops. And when millions of people migrate, you're going to have an extraordinary level of international tension and more wars. That is what we face. Well, as president, we're not going to ignore this issue. We are going to deal with it forcefully. And I am proud to tell you that we have introduced the most sweeping and comprehensive climate change proposal ever introduced by any candidate for federal office. This proposal is based on the outline of the Green New Deal. And what it says, that we will no longer allow the fossil fuel industry to put their short-term profits ahead of the future of our planet. And what it says is that we can create up to 20 million good-paying jobs, transforming our energy system away from fossil fuel to energy efficiency and sustainable energies. Now, the difficulty here, and I'm trying to be honest with you, this is a really serious threat. And the difficulty here is that even if we in the United States did the right thing and transformed our own energy system, took on the fossil fuel industry here, that still would not be enough. What we need, and what I will do if elected president, is reach out to people all over the world, in China, in Russia, in India, in Pakistan, in Brazil, all over the world, because we are in this together. And to make the case that maybe, just maybe, instead of spending $1.8 trillion a year on weapons of destruction designed to kill each other, Maybe we pool our resources, come together, and fight our common enemy, which is climate change. This is a profound, this is more than an environmental issue. This is a moral issue. And the issue is, will we leave our children and our grandchildren and future generations a planet that is healthy and habitable, or will we not? And I don't want anybody here, 30 years from now, 50 years from now, to be talking to your grandson or your granddaughter and answering the question, Grandma, Grandpa, why didn't you do something when you knew what was going to happen? Why didn't you listen to the science? Well, I'm here tonight to tell you we will listen to the scientists. We will act accordingly. When we talk about a progressive agenda and an agenda based on justice, it is imperative that we look at a broken and racist criminal justice system. Again, I want you to think outside of the box. And if you think outside of the box, you're going to ask yourself, how does it happen that in the richest country on earth we have more people in jail, disproportionately African American and Latino and Native American, more people in jail than any other country on earth? China has 4 times our population. Communist, authoritarian country. We have more people in jail than China does. How does that happen? What we will do as an administration is rethink the entire criminal justice system. And what that means, for a start, we will invest in our young people in jobs and in education rather than investing in more jails and incarceration. Second of all, right now, tonight, there are 400,000 people in jail who haven't been convicted of anything. Do you know that? They were arrested, they were charged, they haven't been convicted. Why are they in jail? They can't afford bail. They're arrested, maybe they're guilty, maybe they're not. They can't afford the $500 in bail they need to get out of jail. We, in the year 2020, don't need debtors' prisons in America. So we're going to end the cash bail system. We are going to end private prisons and detention centers. Corporations should not be making money by locking up fellow Americans. And here's something else we're going to do. We are going to end the so-called war on drugs. We are going to legalize marijuana in every state of the union. Here's a question. How many people here know someone who has been arrested for the possession of marijuana? Raise your hand, please. All right. We are going to expunge the records of those who are arrested for possession of marijuana. And when we talk about broken systems in America, we're talking about a very broken and racist immigration system. On our first day in office, we will end the demonization of the undocumented in this country. On our first day in office, we will repeal all of the racist immigration executive orders that Donald Trump promulgated. On our first day in office, we will reestablish legal status for the 1.8 million young people in the DACA program. We will develop a humane border policy which will not allow federal agents to snatch babies from the arms of their mothers or throw children in jail. And most important, Donald Trump stops at nothing.
We appreciate the sound of his hard work.
And most importantly, I believe we can establish and pass a bipartisan, comprehensive immigration reform legislation. Yeah. Which will lead toward a path toward citizenship for all of the undocumented. No matter how divided our nation may be, there is an issue that I think brings everybody together, and that is our horror at turning on the TV and hearing about another horrible mass shooting. And people kind of throw up their hands, and they you know, it's just hard to understand why, how and why this continues to happen. So let me simply say that in terms of gun safety, our policies will be determined by the American people, not the NRA. And that means universal background checks. That means ending gun show loophole. Provision. And what the American people have now finally understood, whether rural states like Iowa or Vermont, whether urban areas like Chicago or New York, is that we must end the sale and distribution of assault weapons in America. Now, as a U.S. Senator from Vermont, I am on the floor of the Senate often, hearing my colleagues give speeches. Not exactly one of the most exciting things to do in the world. And very often I hear from my Republican colleagues who are conservative, and they say, you know, we believe in small government. We believe in getting the government off the backs of the American people. I say to those so-called conservatives, if you believe in getting the government off the backs of the American people, please understand that it is women who have the right to control their own bodies, not the government and politicians. Promise to you is that I will never nominate anyone to the U.S. Supreme Court or the federal courts who is not 100% pro Roe v. Wade. Last point that I want to make, if the microphone allows. We are living in unprecedented times. Massive levels of income and wealth inequality. A president who is trying to undermine American democracy. The threat of climate change. A healthcare system which is dysfunctional. The fact that over the last 45 years, the average worker in America has not seen a nickel increase in his or her wages, while the very, very rich get much richer. That's the world that we live in. And what this campaign is asking of all of us is something pretty hard. Yeah, I'm here to ask you to help me win in Iowa. Yeah, I'm here to ask you to help me win the Democratic nomination. I'm here to ask you to defeat the worst president in modern American history. I'm asking all of that. But I'm asking something more. I'm here to tell you what no other presidential candidate will tell you, is that no president, not Bernie Sanders or anybody else, can do it alone. Because here is the truth. You don't see this truth on TV. They're worried about gossip and this or that. But they're not worried about this one. And that is, we have a power structure in America. And I'm talking about the power of Wall Street, who have endless, underlying endless amounts of money. 6 major banks have assets of over $10 trillion. You got that? 6 banks. I'm talking about the insurance companies. I'm talking about the drug companies. I'm talking about the fossil fuel industry. I'm talking about the military-industrial complex, who has helped create a situation where we're now spending more on the military than the next 10 nations combined. I'm talking about the prison industrial complex. I'm talking about the 1% who have fought to make sure that they do not pay their fair share of taxes. That is who we are taking on. That's the simple truth. And I'm not here to tell you, hey, vote for me and I'm going to do it all. It doesn't work that way. The way it works is that millions of people are going to stand up. And as president, I will not only be commander-in-chief of the military, I intend to be organizer-in-chief as well. And that means I'm prepared to go to Kentucky as president. I'm prepared to come back here to Iowa and to say to the senators and the members of Congress, hey, tell the people in this state why you think health care is not a human right. Tell the people of this state why you want to give tax breaks to billionaires and cut Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. And I think that when you have a president who is willing to confront those senators who continue to represent the rich and the powerful and ignore the needs of working families, when you have a president who will go around the country, you know what? The American people will stand up and tell those senators, do the right thing, represent us, not your campaign contributors. So that is what this campaign is about, and it's kind of unprecedented. I mean, candidates have come and gone for years. They try to win elections, and that's fine. We're trying to win an election, but we're trying to do something more, and that is build a movement of people who are prepared to fight so that finally we have an economy, an energy system, a healthcare system, a government that represents all of us, not just the 1%. So I want to thank all of you for coming out here. We need your help now more than ever. I'm going to be stuck in Washington for God knows how long. So we need you to take my place, give 2-hour speeches like I do, Do whatever you can do. But let's make sure, Iowa goes first. You have an unprecedented role in American politics. You go first. And if we win here in Iowa, with your help, I believe we can win here in Iowa. I think we're going to win in New Hampshire. And if we win in New Hampshire, we're going to win in Nevada. And if we win in Nevada, we're going to do very well in South Carolina. And we're going to win in California. Four years ago, I came to Des Moines, came to Iowa. And I laid out a series of principles, many of which I've talked about tonight. and the economic establishment and the political establishment and the media establishment, those ideas are very radical. Nobody in America will support them. Well, the people in Iowa did. Iowa started the revolution in Iowa. Let's complete the revolution. Thank you all very much.